Hi, I'm Glo, and welcome to Glo's Kindred Kitchen. Today I wanted to share a recipe with you that I have made for many years. And in the past month or so, I've made it a few times for different occasions. And up until this point, I probably have not made this in maybe 3-4 years. I have a lot of recipes, and this one just, I had kind of forgotten about. I was going through one of my cookbooks and I ran across it. And it's an easy cake to make. And the first time I made it, it was for my nephew and his wife that came with their baby to visit. And I was preparing lunch, dinner, and I needed a dessert for dinner, and I needed something quick. And this is the perfect recipe for that. It's called Texas Sheet Cake. And they had never heard of it.
Yeah.
And it was a big hit. And I just, am so used to this recipe all through the years that I just thought everybody had heard of Texas sheet cake, but obviously they have not. I made it again for my work, and again, nobody had heard of it. But now I live in the, Southeast here in the United States, and so I thought, well, maybe there's several people that haven't heard of this before. So I wanted to share this. It's a delicious recipe, and it's not icky sweet, and everybody seems to enjoy it. So let's go ahead and get started.
Yep, it is good.
The first thing is, this came out of a community cookbook. I have found through the years that our community cookbooks have some of the best recipes because they've been tried and true, and you wouldn't put a recipe in here if it wasn't a family favorite or a friend favorite. And this is it, Texas sheet cake.
Is that from this community or one that we previously lived in?
No, this is actually from, I believe it's Pueblo. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Pueblo, Colorado. So it's an easy recipe. It's stuff that you have on hand. And it's so good. So let's go ahead and just get started. The first thing you want to do is, part of this recipe is cooked on the stove. I have 1 cup or 2 sticks of butter here in my pan. So we're going to melt that along with 1 cup of water. So that's going to go ahead and start getting heated up here. I've turned my burner on about medium right now. And to this, after the butter starts to melt, I'm going to be adding 4 tablespoons of cocoa to it. Or 4 tablespoons is actually 1/4 cup. So that's how I measure mine. But the recipe here says 4 tablespoons. But I just find it much easier to do it that way. So while that's starting to warm up, let's go ahead and talk about the dry ingredients that go into this. There's 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 cups of granulated sugar, 2 eggs, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So, and also 1 cup of sour cream. So how easy can that be? Well, I've got something on my burner from last night that's burning off, but that's fine. I'm trying to think what we even had for dinner last night. Oh, I know. We had meatloaf. And potatoes.
And lima beans.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so let's go ahead. I like to sift my flour. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this in my sifter. There we go. And I'm just going to put that right over here and get it out of the way. And then it said 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and I keep my baking soda in a little canning jar. And then 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And this is just my salt shaker, and there we go. That's 1/2 teaspoon measuring. So we're just going to go ahead and get this sifted. We didn't even have any lumps in this one. That's good. So then I have 2 cups of granulated sugar that's already been measured out here.
To save time.
Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and just stir this up. You can see how the butter's starting to melt in there with the water.
Yep.
And after all, I combined the cocoa and everything, you have to boil it. I believe it was for 2 minutes. So let's make sure. Yep, 2 minutes. And then after you boil that for 2 minutes, you add it to this. So, oh, and then I'm going to be adding 1 teaspoon of real vanilla at the end before I put it in my pan. So I'm going to go ahead and just beat up my 2 eggs that I went ahead and cracked. See, by getting all your ingredients ready beforehand too, it just comes together so quickly. So anyway, I'm going to wait until this comes to a boil and, you know, it gets melted, the butter gets melted in there. I'll add the cocoa. I'll come back to show you how to add that, and then we're going to go on to the next step. Okay, so here in my pot, you can see that the butter has all melted into the water, and I'm going to go ahead and add this 1/4 cup or 4 tablespoons of cocoa powder.
Baking cocoa.
And I'm just stirring this to combine it. And it says to boil it for 2 minutes. It hasn't come to a boil yet, but it will very shortly here. You can see the steam coming up off of it
Because your
already.
burners burn hot.
They do. Thank you, Richard. Yeah, Richard's behind the camera here as usual, busy filming for us, and thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
No problemo.
Yep, I can hear it. It's starting to get real,
I don't see
like
it yet.
sizzly. See how it's
there it
starting
goes.
to bubble?
Yeah. Yep.
So now that it's come to a boil, I'm going to go ahead, and this part you have to watch.
2 minutes.
Because you sure don't want this to boil over on you. So I'm going to go ahead and time it. I'll be back in 2 minutes, and then we're going to go on to the next step.
Sounds good, Miss Cole.
Okay, so here you can see it boiling. And I do want to forewarn you, when this first comes to a boil and you add that cocoa, it really boils up. So I actually picked my pot up off the stove and turned my burner down to low. But like, again, my burners, you know, they cook hot, but make sure you watch this because you sure don't want this to spill over.
How about using a diffuser?
No, because you have to have it boiling.
Oh, okay.
But that's
right.
a good recommendation, but it's burnt.
Okay, well, I'm -1.
So anyway, I'm going to pour this in here. And it is hot.
It's pretty hot. I can see it steaming up.
Yep.
Don't fling any over here.
There we go. So I'm going to just set this right down here in this sink. Put a little water in it. Just for a moment. Okay. So then what we're going to do is I'm just going to kind of slowly stir this.
Yes,
to start combining it. And I have here 1 cup of sour cream. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in. Let's use this. These little plunger measuring things are wonderful. That way you don't waste as much. And we're going to go ahead and start to put this in.
Where's that one from?
I think that was from Pampered Chef years ago.
That's what I was thinking.
Many years ago.
Any kitchen store probably has also.
Probably today, they probably do. Now I've got my 2 eggs that I whisked up, and I'm going to add that. The reason I added the sour cream first is you don't want to have scrambled eggs in here. So, and with that hot chocolate, that, you know, mixture that we put in there, that could have cooked these eggs before we got it in the oven. And you sure don't want that.
I don't know. I could go either way, cake or eggs.
No, you don't want
Couple
that
of scrambled eggs
texture.
sounds good.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just scrape this off. And then I'm going to use my mixer. I'm just using my little hand mixer. You don't even need a hand mixer for this, but I'm using it.
Stand back.
Yep. Because you really don't want any lumps of flour in this. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this up and I'll be back. And this is only going to take a couple minutes.
Sounds good, Miss Flo.
Okay, now I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of real vanilla. And I'm going to just blend this just a little bit. That should be plenty. So now what I'm going to do, let's see if we can do this. I'm just going to move it over here. It's okay if the batter drips down on that. I just don't want to mess up my counter as much as possible. So keep it clean. So anyway, now what we're going to do is I went ahead and I pre-greased my pan. You need, I think it's called like a 15 by 10 or 17 by 11. You need like a sheet cake pan, and that's what this is, or a jelly roll pan. And we're going to put this batter into our pan. I have my oven preheating to 350 degrees. Oh, it smells good.
Save some for me so I can lick the bowl.
Yeah, he likes to lick the bowl.
The spatula and everything else it's on.
All right, so I'll leave you a little bit in there.
Thanks a lot, Miss Cole.
Let's get rid of that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in my oven at 350 degrees, and then it bakes for about a half an hour, if I recall. Oh no, 20 to 25 minutes. But with that being said, this is one of those insulated pans, so there's like a layer in there of air. Yeah, it's like a pocket of air. Because of that, this pan takes longer. So it's going to take about 30 minutes. So anyway, I'll be back, and then we're going to go on to the next step while this is baking, because what we're going to do is we're going to make up our frosting. One of the reasons I like this recipe is because you frost it when it's warm. So anyway, I'll be back.
Okay.
Well, we got our cake in the oven cooking, and I cleaned up my mess, and now we're going to do this frosting together. So you can see it's already come into a boil. So what I have in here is, let me turn this down. I put it too low. I have 6 tablespoons of whole milk, and I have 1 stick of butter, which is a half a cup. And now I'm going to add 4 tablespoons or 1/4 of a cup of the unsweetened baking cocoa. And we're just going to stir this up. And once this comes to a boil, we're going to boil this for 1 minute. And then we're going to be adding it to some powdered sugar here in this bowl. And we're going to be whipping this up to go over the hot cake. So, and the cake is in the oven. We've got about 12, 13 minutes left on that. And so I'll be back just as soon as this boils for 1 minute. And we're going to go on to mixing up our frosting. Well, our mixture here boiled for 1 minute, and now I'm going to pour it in here to the powdered sugar. I have 2 cups of powdered sugar in here. You're supposed to be adding up to a box or 3.5 to 4 cups of the powdered sugar. So we'll see how that comes together here. Let me get a better spatula.
Leave some for me. Leave some for me, please.
Well, you won't want this yet. You'll like it with the powdered sugar with it, but this
No, that's what I meant.
that I'm taking out of here, you would not
No,
like that.
no, I didn't. I meant lick the pot.
Okay.
But anyway, I'll lick it.
That
Can't be that bad.
it's unsweetened. Yeah, it would not taste good.
Yeah, you're right.
But if you want to taste it, be our guest.
I don't like
I'll film you tasting it. You won't like it.
If it's anything like the dark chocolate that tastes like chalk, I don't want it.
Okay, so what we're going to do, I just kind of stir it up to start. Because if I turn this on without kind of stirring this up, we're going to have a mess.
Yeah, don't do that.
So now I'm going to just... And this is just 2 cups so far. There we go. Let's add some more. This is a 1/2 cup measuring cup. There you go. So now that's 3 cups. We're going to stir this around. To mix this together, it's going to take at least another 1/2 cup of powdered sugar, and I'll be back, and then we're going to add the vanilla flavoring and just a tiny bit of salt. Well, I've got it whipped up pretty good. Now I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of vanilla. This is a 1/2 teaspoon measuring spoon, so there's 1 teaspoon. And then I'm going to do just a dash of salt. Reason I do that, the recipe doesn't actually call for it. See, it's hardly anything.
Yep.
But what that does, it tones down the sweetness. So I'm going to go ahead and whip that up in here. And I'm going to go on the highest speed.
That's the highest?
Mm-hmm. You can hit I have a little power button on here that will make it even faster.
Yeah, it's turbo.
So that looks like it's enough.
That's pretty good to me.
So, and I've got 1 minute left for the cake to come out.
Good.
So I'm going to get the rack out to put my cake on, and I'll be back so that you guys can see the cake. And after it's been out for a few minutes, then we're going to frost it. I'll be back. Well, here's the Texas sheet cake right out of the oven. And I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to tell if your cake is done. So, Richard, if you'll come over here, can you see how the cake is starting to pull away from the sides of the pan?
I can, yeah.
Yep. So that's one indicator. Then if you touch it like this and it springs back, that's another indicator. And then the last one, it's not really the last, but if your toothpick or skewer comes out clean, you know that it's done. So this has got to cool for about 4 more minutes, and then we're going to spread the frosting on it. I'll be back in just a few minutes.
Sounds good, Miss Chloe.
Okay, now we're ready to put the frosting on. In 5 minutes. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to put it in a couple of different areas, and then we're going to spread it out. And yes, Richard, I'll leave you a little bit of frosting in here for you.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
I knew you were.
Gotta get to it before it gets hard, though.
Okay, so what I do is I just take my offset spatula and I just start spreading it around to the edges. So I'm going to continue to spread it around, and then we'll be back and you can see what it looks like. But this goes on together very easily, as you can tell.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, so I'll be back in just a moment.
Later.
Well, I've got it totally frosted. And don't be afraid to have it go down in between the cake and the pan as well. It's a nice little surprise for people. But anyway, this has got to cool now. But see how easy this was to put together? You don't even have to wait for it to cool before you frost it. It's just one of those desserts that goes together really quick and is so good. So anyway, I'll be back in about a couple hours actually to let this cool. And then we're going to sample this together. Good. I'll be back.
Cut me a piece too, Miss Chloe.
Oh, of course. Well, now it's what we've all been waiting for, the taste test. And look at this.
I've already tasted it.
What did you say, Richard?
It's better than the last time you made it. It's really good. Now you can try it, Miss Chloe.
I haven't tried it yet, so...
I think it is better. Really good.
I think it's just that you've been wanting this again. He said to me this morning, he said, if you're making that, we're going to have to get rid of it because I can't eat all of that. Well, I'll definitely be sharing this with more people than just us because it's a whole sheet cake and that's just way too much for us. We'll be taking it to probably some of it to my niece and probably some for members at work as well that really enjoyed this. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take a bite as well. Look at that, you guys.
Looks good.
Double thumbs up for sure. I got to share with you. One of my brothers came here to visit this month as well. He is not a dessert person at all. Never has been. But I made this for him because I knew that he probably would enjoy it. He had 2 pieces back to back. That's how much he liked it. So that tells me it's one of those desserts that's not icky sweet. It's just very satisfying. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you have, please give me a like, thumbs up. Give me a comment. Have you ever made this cake before? And I challenge you, if you have not made this cake before, by all means, try it. You will really enjoy it, and so will your family and friends. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for this time and for joining us today. And I'll see you again next week for another video. Take care. Bye.
And don't forget to subscribe.